Welcome back. Okay, Debbie and I just debated whether or not certain news can be announced, and she won, which is quite typical of our discussions. Anyway, so for those of you who want to know what's happening in the Milpitas real estate market, you have to give Debbie a call. Debbie, what's the best way to reach you?
Okay, you can reach me at vhotv.com.
Right,
Debbie at vhotv.com.
Right, and our program airs here. There's 5 days a week.
Yes, it does. We air on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6:30 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday at 9 a.m. And Tina was just saying that she's talked to a couple folks that have been watching her on TV, and so we're getting excited. I think that the show is taking off. And
right, I think so too. If you've got questions, send them in. But in addition to that, what I wanted to get at here is that we were talking off camera about some of the things happening in real estate, and I tell you, you've got to give Debbie a call because there are some things happening. If you're thinking about buying, at least in the next month or so, you've got to give Debbie a call and make sure that you get a chance to be represented by somebody that knows what's happening in real estate. There are some things going on. We couldn't bring it up. I guess my attorney and her attorney told us not to. Anyway, let's get back to some other things.
Got it.
We'll talk about short sales right now. Short sales are when, as you know, when somebody owes more money on a property than it's worth. Now, there's technical definitions and all kinds of Webster's definitions, but that's the definition we're going to run with. It's when a property has more money owed on it than it's worth. So how do you sell that property? Well, the only way to do that is to convince the current lenders on the property to accept a short payoff, thus the word short sale. Short sale does not mean it happens quickly. In fact, it happens 2 or 3 times as long. Now, over the last year, we've seen short sales increase, not only here in Milpitas, everywhere throughout the country, in fact, and probably more prevalent in those states that have had the higher number of foreclosures. What I do want to mention is if you are thinking about short selling a property, you need to talk to a professional that knows how to do a short sale. Here, the Real Estate Board is now doing classes for agents to give them the basics on short sales. And again, it's one of those animals that you want to go in, if you're new to it, having a mentor teach you.
And I agree with you. It is a very unique market, the short sale market, and the process and the way to make a successful transaction close. I heard a statistic, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, that 3% of the short sales close escrow. Would you agree with that? Or
yeah, I'll agree with that.
I've had a bit higher percentage than that in my own life, but I just would question that. But
well, statistically, it's less than 10%.
It is less than 10%, which, Edwin, that would probably answer the question as to why there's so many REO properties now this year on the market. Those are probably some short sales that were not culminated.
The majority of them aren't.
They didn't make it. They weren't able to work with the banks, and the first lender canceled out the second lender, or the second lender didn't, whatever the mechanics.
Well, let's talk about that. And I'm glad you actually touched on it. Is that what's the likelihood of a short sale being successful? And that depends on the qualities of the professional you're working with. But I will point out some things that I've seen that have indicated to me where there's a high probability of successfully closing a short sale. The first thing is that the high probability of closing a short sale, if you're the seller or you're the agent, is if there's one lender. Now, there can be multiple loans, a first loan, a second loan, but if they're with the same lender, that's a good thing in terms of short selling the property.
And I would agree. The one that's going to the REO department, we had to work with 2 lenders, and we could not get the second lender to cooperate.
Right.
And I have one now in transaction that the first and the second are with the same bank, and we're having full cooperation.
Exactly. See, the challenge is getting if there are 2 different lenders, is getting the first and the second lender to agree on numbers.
Correct.
And it's tough enough to get one lender to agree on numbers, let alone 2.
Right.
You're actually having to negotiate with everybody. So that's one of the things that's needed in a successful short sale. And I shouldn't say that if you have 2 lenders, it won't happen. I'm just saying that the probabilities seem to be higher if the lender is the same. The second thing is the homeowner, the borrower, has to be able to document their background. In other words, 2 years tax returns, last 30 days of pay stubs, bank accounts for the last 3 months, things of that nature. If it's a situation where you're unable to document those things, then the likelihood, again, of successfully completing a short sale, it's diminished because the lenders, if it's 1 or 2 lenders, will ask for that. And if you can't bring up that information, and it's all confidential, but if you can't bring up that information, then it's unlikely you'll get the cooperation.
Right, I agree. That's probably the big launching starting point of that process, is to be able to get that information out of the seller or the borrower and have them be able to produce that information, and that's acceptable to the lender.
Right. one of the myths out there in doing short sales is that a homeowner or a borrower has to be late on payments before a lender will consider short sale.
Isn't that interesting?
It's a myth. I've been at actual short sale seminars where the instructor is teaching us that the homeowner needs to be late on payments before lenders will consider it. And that's not true. I've successfully closed several
I agree.
where the borrower was never late on the payment. And so as to whether there's a ding on credit, that's an individual question. It really depends on many factors besides those late payments. Okay, but just to get back to it, so if you are current, but you anticipate a hardship, a financial hardship of some sort, if you've got one lender on a couple of different loans for the same property, and you can document where you've been financially, your chances of completing a short sale are pretty good. The fourth thing, and I'm not going to say it's the most important thing, but I think you'll hear from my tone of voice, is you've got to get an agent that knows what they're doing.
Definitely. There's
more to it than just being a realtor or a real estate licensee. Having the ability to do a short sale requires a temperament of an agent that is hard to come by. It's patience beyond belief because they're negotiating with the seller, with the buyer, excuse me, with the multiple lenders. It's not an easy thing to do. Would you agree?
I totally agree.
Okay. So if you have other questions on short sales, reach us through our website, vhotv.com. Elleren's telling me, our engineer is letting me know that we're almost running out of time. So
unbelievable. I can't believe how fast these shows go.
They go quickly, and there's other material we want to cover that get emailed in. So if you've got a topic, be sure to email that in. In fact, if you do email that in and we select your topic, one of the things we'll send out is I co-authored a book called Marketopoly, and it talks about how to interpret a few statistics about the real estate board. And hold it right here. And we'll send that out to you. Send in your questions, and if we pick a question out, we'll go ahead and send you a copy of that. Okay, so you can reach us on our website, vhotv.com. Until next time, Debbie and Edwin saying happy hunting as you look for your place to call home.